Hello and welcome to this edition of the Halcyon Show. My name's Lorne Risley and I'm going to be your host for this episode, and yes, I am too sexy for this shirt, but that's only because you make me too sexy for this shirt.
Giggity giggity, giggity goo. Stick around.
On this edition of the Halcyon Show, this is a very kind of special episode, even though most of the episodes I do are special because they're all amazing. Send me presents.
Do it! Just do it!
When I started Halcyon a few years ago, I really only had the idea of reviewing stuff that I had a lot of knowledge with, a strong grasp of in terms of the game I was looking at, the movie I was reviewing, the television series, the item in question. It was always going to be an ultimate goal of mine to be able to review contemporary things that I had little to no interest in, or indeed no vested interest in whatsoever. And finally, a few days ago, that aspiration finally came true. I received a game code. Meaning that I get to review a game to review the game. It's a brand new experience for me. It's a little bit daunting, I've got to be honest with you. I don't know where the line is in terms of what I should and shouldn't be saying, how nice or harsh I should be, how many jokes at the developer's expense or the game's expense am I allowed to get away with before I'm a distasteful asshole.
You can do it! Cut his head off!
So we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants here. So, on this edition of the Halcyon Show, I am going to do my utmost to be a professional. Stop laughing. I'm going to be professional.
These nuts. Got him!
Okay, I had to put that in there, but give me a break here, okay? This is new ground for me. On this edition of the Halcyon Show, I'm going to be talking about a game called Power Gunner, a side-scrolling shooter game of sorts that was given to me by a developer by the name of Megatoast Games. Two developers, one from New Zealand and one from Canada. I believe I said that right. A gentleman by the name of Carl, very, very friendly gentleman, corresponded with me just to get a bit more of an inkling as to the design of the game, what motivated them, and what they drew inspiration from in terms of the game. The main thing that I took away from my interaction with the developers, having researched them and having looked into their channel in terms of what games they've produced and what kind of games they've produced up until now, I like them.
People are gonna look. What people?
But let's get to the nub of the issue here, Power Gunner. What are my impressions first of all? I like the game. It's a quirky shooter, so it's difficult for me to describe, so I'll just give you beat by beat. In essence, what you do is you begin a level in a little flying saucer orb thing with two Gatling guns pointing out of the bottom and a little antenna on the top with the logo of the Power Gunner series on the front. You then traverse the level defeating enemies, usually turrets or floating bosses or floating enemies and all manner of things in between. Collecting power-ups, collecting items, collecting health boosts, collecting fuel boosts. The main nub of the game, if I can describe it to my British contingent, is this. Did you ever have the old skyboxes when they still had games on them? Remember Beehive Bedlam? Remember games like that? Well, there was a game on there called Fathom. And in essence, it's a submarine that you've got to navigate through a maze to get from one side to the other, with platforms in between, enemies in between, a turret on the top, and you have to moderate your fuel intake. This game harkens back to that in some sense, but not in the strictest sense. This game doesn't have an aim mechanic. It focuses more on the maneuverability of your vessel, if you will, moving from side to side and up and down. The enemies will drop from the top to the bottom, landing on the floor, and you have no landing pad, so to speak. So you've got to always be perpetually maintaining motion. You've always got to be moving from side to side to avoid the fire of enemies on the floor, in the air. You've also got to worry about them dropping from the ceiling and hitting you, which is a bit of a pain in the ass when you're trying to navigate from side to side and you haven't got your eye on the map at all times. But it's a challenge to say the least because it's not about the aiming. The aiming is something that you kind of take into consideration with the maneuverability issue. So, what do I think of it? I actually really enjoy it. You're almost willing where you want to aim, which can be frustrating sometimes because you want to aim at this thing rather than the other thing. But at the same time, it does free your mind up to just be more aware of surroundings. That's the key issue with this game to be successful or to have fun with it. Don't necessarily focus on the point you're focusing on in terms of where you want to aim. Be more aware of what's going on around you. The other piece of advice I'd give you with this game is to try and soldier through that initial first stage, because once you get to the first boss of the game, and there are bosses that drop, and these are mammoths that have way more health, although it is offset by the fact that the damage they do is somewhat mitigated, and they can be quite easy to avoid. They fire just continuous streams that have a little bit of a homing ability, but not much. They're reasonably easy to evade so long as you can sort of sustain fire for a period, move out of the way and switch sides, sustain fire again, switch sides, and just continue this on. And so long as you don't get swarmed by a lot of the smaller enemies, which can be a bit of a pain in the ass, there's these owl-type enemies that are really the real threat of the game for me. These things pose the worst threat, but just because they're so accurate, they're so fast, their projectiles are a lot faster than the bosses. They don't take as much damage, anywhere near as much damage, obviously, but they can be the biggest pain in the ass. So the advice I give you is just get past that first boss, because once you do, you unlock an upgrade that allows you more firepower, your points ratio is going to increase, and that's the main thing that you kind of strive for in this game. The points is where you end up on the leaderboard, so you're just always constantly striving to get that extra little bit to kind of bounce up. I've gone from, I think there's 180 people currently listed on the leaderboard. I've gone up from 90 to 80 to 70 to 53 at the time of this recording. It's probably going to go down in the meantime, but screw it. I am probably going to continue playing this game just because I am kind of a little bit addicted. And that's the other compliment I could give this game. It takes a little bit of time to get used to. That floating mechanic, I can't lie, it feels a little bit disjointed at times when you get too close to the ground, it feels a little bit unresponsive. You want that initial, if you take damage from, and I should probably point that out, you take damage from landing, you can't land at any point. If you come into contact with the ground, it's going to do damage. Same with pretty much anything else you come into contact with, apart from the pickups, which we'll talk about a little bit more in just a second. But yeah, in essence, there's just a few aspects of this game that just lack a little bit of responsiveness, and you could argue that that's a developer preference in terms of making the game, giving it some artificial difficulty. I never enjoy games where there's an inherent lack of responsiveness. I want to feel, if I've made a mistake, that I'm the one to blame for the mistake, not because, well, I pressed the damn button and the button didn't do what I wanted it to do. But to offset that, you do get used to it over time. You do get used to maybe not getting so close to the, like if you drop, and again, the drop rate is one of those things that keeps you on your toes. It's not even movement side to side and up and down. In fact, you can maintain a lot of lateral movement with minimal effort from the boosters which consume fuel. The way you die is by taking, again, projectile bolts that drop your health. The health and the fuel system, your damage, and indeed other power-ups can be collected by using this tractor beam that you use when you're floating around. One thing I didn't like about the game, and I understand this is probably a limitation of the developers, is that if you preempt something that you need, let's say you're low on health, and you see that there's going to be a health drop, in this case it's astronauts that you rescue, give you, I think it's a 50+ health boost. You can't just, you have to wait for them to drop. If you collect them in midair, it's either it's a glitch or it's something that I'm just missing, but it doesn't register. And it's very frustrating because you think, oh god, I need it right now, I can't wait for it to drop, and you preempt it and you kind of do the whole, catch him in midair thing, and it doesn't seem to work. I don't know why that is, maybe that's just me, I don't know, but I have to report it just because it was frustrating at times not being able to dictate the pace of the game when it becomes more frantic, and trust me, it does. Once you beat that first boss, the enemies start coming thick and fast, and considering that I've only attained a high score at the moment of just over 3,000, the high scores are something like 75,000, so you can imagine just how unbelievably frantic this game can become in the latter stages. But thankfully, there are power-ups that help mitigate this, chief among which are the sort of the overcharge power. So you've played the side-scrolling shoot-em-ups before where you get bonuses that increase the fire rate or widen the fire rate or increase the damage of the fire rate. Kind of the same here, except for they just blast in patterns and they blast more or less frequently. These can be very useful against the bosses, specifically if you can get enough of your main aspect of fire along with these power-ups. So, on balance, I would recommend this game to most people because if nothing else, it's a great game to play in those 5 to 10 minute boosts. I mean, I've been playing on and off for about 6 hours, and to be honest with you, a gaming session never exceeded more than sort of 20 minutes before I felt the need to put it down, have a little break, but I did feel the need to come back and say, yeah, but if I try this next time, maybe it'll work. So I can heartily recommend this to people, considering it's only 99 cents on Steam at the moment. It's a very recent release. I think it was the 17th of May it was released, so not a lot of people have played it at the moment, so you've got a really good chance to get yourself really high up on the leaderboard. I'm still going to be aiming for that #1 spot, believe it or not, even with a discrepancy of nearly 72,000 points between the two. I will get that #1 spot, rest assured. I mean, just to come back to the quotation that I was given by Carl Nelson, one of the developers, very nice gentleman, thank you very much for responding, Carl. The game itself was based off the old school shooter games combined with Lunar Lander. We've got other modes where you can control the guns, but that takes the action from being a close quarters combat game to being a game that's a lot more distance based than just running and hiding, so they got rid of that. So clearly they've got a very clear vision with what they wanted with this game, which is that they don't want this to become a protracted battle section where it goes back and forth. They want it to be a frantic experience. They want it to be an exciting experience. And to that end, I can kind of see where they're coming from. But at the same time, I can't lie and say I don't have some kind of benign curiosity in having maybe more control of the guns, because that is something that's hard to get used to in this game. Because they auto lock on and there's two of them, so sometimes they can split. It would be nice maybe to be able to control some aspect of the aiming, just so in those moments where I think, no, I need to take this boss down first, then I'll deal with this, or I need to deal with the little things first and then I'll worry about the boss in a minute. I get that it's about the maneuverability and being able to position yourself accordingly, but at the same time, it would be nice to be able to have some semblance of control. A couple of the criticisms I have, the menu screen is actually really easy to navigate. In terms of the aesthetics, I actually really like the aesthetics of this game, by the way. A lot of the characters are soft, nothing too threatening or aggressive looking, despite the nature of the game being a shoot 'em up. I like that it's all very bright, colourful, vibrant. The music on the entrance screen, on the opening screen, I really liked actually. I liked it as the theme of the game. However, I will say that the theme in the first level, and I believe there are levels to this game, there are certainly different stages, if you will. I really didn't like that music. It was kind of this funky da 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 da, and it's. It grates on you after a minute or two, so I had to find the menu to turn the music off just because I didn't enjoy the music all that much. But it's easily done. I saw another criticism in one of the YouTube comment sections of one of their videos to say that the gun sounds they didn't like. I kind of understand the criticism, but at the same time it's not enough for me to criticize that that's the sound of the guns. Like, you know, sometimes they sync up and it sounds just like one gun firing, and sometimes it sounds more rapid. It's not enough to criticize. I mean, if I'm gonna be picky, I'd say, you know, I like my guns to have a little bit more impact, but that's not the key focus of this game, I feel. It's the gunplay is part of it, but it's the maneuverability that's gonna keep you coming back, because that's where the mastery truly lies, and being able to get in and out of situations quickly and effectively, picking up power-ups when you need them, becoming more powerful, and using those mega booster powers like the side-scrolling Death Rain, or, you know, all these other things to really eliminate a lot of enemies at once rather than try to focus on taking them out one by one. If you do that, the guns aren't going to be firing as much, so they probably won't annoy you as much. So, it's a criticism I can probably see kind of pushed to one side, if I'm perfectly honest with you. In terms of the developer though, it would appear that they've produced a few other games. So if I'm going to have a look quickly, they have another game called Hyper Slasher, which is coming out soon. I don't know a tremendous amount about that game, but I will be querying it with the developers after this review goes up, because I'd be quite keenly interested to see, because if you look at the developers' history with some of their games, they all seem to be reasonably well presented in terms of their aesthetics. They seem to have a fun premise behind them, and it seems like they're trying to give different slants to well-established genres, which is always nice, because let's be honest, when you're coming to grips with a brand new type of game, there's going to be a learning curve. Whereas if you pick up something that feels at least somewhat vaguely familiar, but with a new twist, it can feel fresh and it can remind you of why you liked that genre of game in the first place. So I do appreciate what they've tried to do here. In terms of an overall recommendation, I would recommend this to pretty much anybody who's looking for a game to kill those sort of 15-20 minute slots between an appointment, on the bus, or if you don't have anything to hate on Twitter that day. I'm always a little bit reluctant to give ratings for games, so I'm not going to from now on. I would just give this a very hearty recommendation. Like I say, it's only 99 cents on Steam. It's, you know, that's nothing for a game like this. It's fun, it's easy to get to grips with, it's well designed. The developer seems nice, so I would encourage you to support this developer, because it seems like the kind of games that they're going to be producing going forward are going to be really enjoyable games. The only criticisms I have is that it is a little bit rough around the edges. There's a couple of graphical issues that you can see where they've not cropped it or faded it properly. Some of the designs are a little bit lackluster, but I like them. Again, I like the soft design of them. The gameplay itself is a little bit repetitive at times, but it is fun and it's tricky to master, especially when there's numerous enemies on the screen. And overall, it's just a very fun, enjoyable experience. So I'm kind of happy to say that the first ever review of a game that I have literally no interest in is a game that I'm really looking forward to seeing how it spurns the developer on. I'm looking forward to seeing what they produce next. Megatoast Games, go follow them on Twitter and indeed on YouTube and on Instagram and all the rest of it. Send them presents and the like. Go check out their game. It's called Power Gunner again. It's on Steam. But you'll need to go check it for themselves. We're not going to do everything for you here. I'm just going to tell you that it's a game that you should definitely go check out. So, on that note, thank you very much for watching this edition of The Halcyon Show. Please like, share and subscribe. Check out some of the other content creators in the description below. I hope you've been checking out their content recently. I hope you're also checking me out over on Defunct Games channel. If nothing else, then he's got something big planned. He won't tell me what it is, but he tells me it's big. That means it must be something good. So I'd suggest you go over there and get invested in his channel before he blows up and he becomes but a god to you mere mortals, much in the way that I've become someone's financial advisor over the past couple of episodes. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching again. Please take care of yourselves. I've been your host, Lon Risley. Follow me on Twitter. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next episode of The Halcyon Show.